Welcome back to Petty Astrology. I'm your host, Kaycee Felton-Lui. It feels like it's been harder and harder to enjoy life. And, for some of us, maybe we're in more comfortable positions. Maybe we're not as stressed out as the people around us. And there's nothing to be ashamed of about that. But when you're in a world that is falling apart, it's tough not to absorb at least some of that. But the truth is, suffering for suffering's sake isn't inherently radical. It's not going to magically make things better. And that's not to say that those of us in the West don't need to reflect on the tremendous cost that our pleasures have on the global South. But we have to stay connected to the things in life that make it worth living. Otherwise, what are we fighting for? Today on the podcast, I talk about this exciting Taurus season. Then stay tuned for your horoscope for this week's new moon in Taurus. We kicked off Taurus season on April 19th, and it goes until May 20th. And if you are a patron or you made it to my live stream where I talked about the astrology of April, you already know that the April part of Taurus season has a lot of tension to it. And at the time that this podcast comes out, we are in the middle of a particularly tense week. This is definitely not the easiest start to a Taurus season that we've ever had. And after that, it's going to stay very eventful. Given what's going on right now, I would not be surprised if a lot of people listening, are cringing because I'm delivering this information, that it is going to stay interesting. And it's going to stay interesting this whole year. So don't be surprised. But what I want to encourage you to do is to think about the good things that are also going to happen in this season and in this year as a whole. On a mundane level, on a world events level, God, there's not enough going on, is there? It's difficult to keep up with the amount of news that is coming out right now. And I think that is by design. I've talked in the past about how those in power are chumming the waters. They're throwing out a ton of information from all directions, and they're doing so much at once that it makes it difficult for regular people, especially those of us who have to work to survive and are navigating all of the madness and the changes that are happening right now. Very difficult to know all of the things that are coming at us right now, which is why it's important that those of us who are good at paying attention to this kind of stuff and sharing what's going on actually do that. With so much information, so many events, it's just very easy for things to fall by the wayside, and some of those things are pretty important. But I really want to encourage you to make space and prioritize absorbing good news too. Now, the tough thing about that is that the good news is usually not front page, because oftentimes that is not what gets people's attention. So we have to understand the media landscape that we're living in, because people have been really trained to look at the bad. And it's not that I want people to ignore the bad things that are happening right now. Not at all. That's actually really dangerous. But if we train ourselves that nothing good is happening and nothing good is ever going to happen again, because maybe that's how we feel, we're kind of creating this negative feedback loop. And that is a really dangerous thing right now. So seek out the good news and share that stuff too. Give yourself and the people around you some hope, because we need that right now. On a mundane level, on a world events level, over Taurus season, I think that we're really going to continue hearing a lot about the tariff situation, because unfortunately it is something that is so impactful to the global economy. And a lot of our trade relationships are being damaged right now. And a lot of businesses are taking hits. Those are big businesses, small businesses, and it's just creating chaos really around the world. So I think we will continue to hear a lot about that and the negotiations that are happening to hopefully reduce some of these tariff rates, because I don't think people are going to take it lying down. I don't think that they can afford to not push back against this. And it's just really disastrous economic policy. And that's not something that you usually hear me talking about, but this is going to have such a big impact that I just don't see anything else happening but a lot of pushback and negotiations, and probably, a lot of money changing hands, because as we've seen with the Trump administration, a lot of this has to do with who their buddies are, who's giving them money, who's financing their campaigns, who's lining their pockets, who's offering them things that they want. Now, we may see some of this play out in public as, that's part of diplomacy, is this kind of volleying back and forth and, who's going to play hardball and who's not. And thankfully for all of us, I think, China has been playing hardball with the United States and pushing back pretty hard. We are in what looks to be a full-blown trade war. So we're going to continue to see that play out. We know from experience that these ultra-wealthy, ultra-powerful people tend to not really care what regular people think or what they're going to experience as a result of things like these tariff policies. But I think that they are really miscalculating, because there are other elements in this energy that tell me that working class people are likely going to see this as the attack that it is, and I don't think people are going to take that lying down. We have already seen the stock market, which unfortunately a lot of people are invested in for their retirement, taking massive dives. So on a very basic level, I think a lot of people are scared about what this means for their future. And we import a lot of things, particularly from China. So I don't see this having no impact on our day-to-day lives. And as we know, if we look around, if you are a regular person, a lot of us are struggling financially, getting our needs met, getting the healthcare we need, getting enough sleep given all of the stresses going on. Some of us are losing our jobs. So I really don't see this as an atmosphere where this is going to go unnoticed. And one of the few things I think we can thank the Trump administration for is being so fucking blatant about the bad shit that they're doing and really not expecting pushback to do much. Because what I see is people digging their own metaphorical graves. And even before all of these major economic hits, we have already seen people approaching the way that they're spending their money very differently than they have in the past, at least here in the United States. I don't think in my lifetime, and I'm in my mid-30s, I don't think I've ever seen so many boycotts, so many people deciding not to put their money into corporations that are ultimately not helping us. I don't know how this trade war is going to play out blow by blow, but I do think that the Trump administration is making a big mistake, and I don't think it's going to go as well for them as they thought. A lot of government workers have already lost their jobs. I'm sure that there is more to come, and I think that we're also going to see more layoffs this Taurus season, unfortunately. So all this to say is that I think that they're really doing a piss poor job of setting themselves up for this to be well received. And ultimately, they don't care. And so my hope as this plays out is that we can do a good job of explaining to people the links between the things in their lives that are going wrong financially and what the Trump administration is doing. And if you're in the United States, we already know that a lot of people pretty much blame how good their lives are going on whoever's president at the given time. So I think we have a few things going in our favor. I think we'll see more talk of unemployment, layoffs, people being underemployed, or just not making enough money, especially given that the United States government has started garnishing people's wages again if they are unable to pay their student loans. Economic security won't be the only thing on the menu this Taurus season. I think we'll see a lot more conversation about securing the borders, national security, those type of things. And partly that is going to be a little bit of a distraction from all of the economic shit that's going down. So we need to not fall for the fear-mongering of these big bad other countries, because actually the United States is the one carrying out a lot of the bombing and stuff. So it's really a lot of smoke and mirrors. Like, look over there, look over there. Meanwhile, issues of security are really happening here under the Trump administration. We have immigrants being detained and disappeared even. We have tourists being harassed and abducted, and in some cases expelled from the country. And we have a president who has made it very clear that he intends to do the same things to United States citizens. This is going to continue to inspire conversations and a lot more action. As I'm recording this, there are already encampments on college campuses being resurrected to protest this and the genocide in Palestine. There are people on hunger strikes. There are people blocking weapons transportation in ports. And I expect actions like this to grow over this Taurus season, because if we don't have basic security to not be genocided or abducted by the government and disappeared, then we really have nothing. And I think that we'll see a lot more people waking up to that painful realization. As we get into May, I'm expecting a lot more protests, a lot more direct action to be happening. And that's not to say that it's not going to start before then, because it's been ongoing. But I do think that we'll see an acceleration happening when we get into May. And in the meantime, we're seeing continued attacks on things like food safety, public health, and the health of our planet, because these are all things that impact large amounts of people. And if we don't address these things, we're all in danger. I know it doesn't sound like it, but that's another gift of this Taurus season. Because given where we're at, the astrology is showing us that some of these issues that might feel very personal because of how we're experiencing them are collective issues. There really isn't such a thing as individual security when the stakes are so very high. Taurus season is always a time to reflect on our resources. But this time around, I think a lot of us are going to be feeling our insecurities. And for good reason. Because if we're aware of the problems, we can actually take steps to do something about it, and preferably with our communities. One of the helpful things about this challenging energy is that it really gives us the opportunity to clarify what is actually important to us at the end of the day. A lot of us here in the United States have been conditioned into a very particular vision of the things that we want, and we're trained to be consumers. But hopefully, as we get older and develop more individuality and hopefully more consciousness, we can realize that maybe those are not the things that we actually want, and maybe the stuff that we have and hoarding wealth isn't the dream that we thought it was. And that's not to say that material things aren't nice or that some material things are actually just basic needs. That dividing line is going to get a lot clearer for many of us over this Taurus season. I think those realizations, along with the fallout of all these world events that we're seeing that are impacting so many of us in material ways, are going to drive more people to be actively engaged in resistance or step up the work that they're already doing. I know it can feel like there is a lot stacked against regular people right now, but I just want you guys to know that the resistance that we're seeing is working. I have talked about the Tesla takedown movement before, and what it's designed to do is to go after the Tesla brand because of its association with Elon Musk, who is obviously playing a big role in the Trump administration and a lot of this horrible shit that we're seeing happen. For months now, pretty much every single week, people have been protesting outside of Tesla showrooms all over the country and even in other parts of the world. And I have seen people criticize this movement for not being the right thing or not being enough. And, there's some validity to that because I don't think that one singular protest movement is going to be the solution to all things. But that doesn't mean that it's not doing something really important. Already this Taurus season, we have seen Tesla's net income slide 71% in the first quarter of 2025. That is a massive amount of money that anyone that's been involved in the Tesla takedown movement should be really proud of. And this just goes to show that a pretty simple action, showing up at these Tesla showrooms, holding signs, talking to people that also don't like what's going on, can have a massive impact. Is it the solution to all of our woes? Absolutely not. But it's doing something significant. And one of the most important things I think we can take away from this is that simple actions can have huge consequences. And that is a very powerful lesson for Taurus season. We do not have to reinvent the wheel. We do not have to single-handedly solve these problems. And not every act of resistance we take has to be the big one for it to be impactful. Tesla takedown is about hitting an evil billionaire where it hurts, which is right in the wallet. It couldn't be a more perfect beginning to Taurus season. So keep looking for the hope because it's out there, and keep taking action on the things that are meaningful to you because it does matter. And I think this Taurus season is going to show us just how much that matters. Getting to the end of one of the most tense weeks of 2025, we have the new moon in Taurus. It's happening on Sunday, April 27th at 12:31 p.m. Pacific time, and it's at 7 degrees and 47 minutes of Taurus. One of the reasons that this week has been so tough is that we have Mars in opposition with Pluto in Aquarius. This energy brings a lot of tension, and that opposition between Mars in Leo and Pluto in Aquarius is squaring off with this new moon in Taurus. We'll already have been feeling this build of energy as we move closer to the new moon. So it's not like suddenly it's going to be the new moon. You're going to be like, whoa, this is tense. Probably you will have been feeling it already. This is dynamic energy, and a lot of us are feeling squeezed in certain ways. And that's part of why I talked about it in the first part of this episode, because I want to acknowledge the elephant in the room for a lot of us right now, and also point out that the squeeze that many of us are experiencing is driving us to do things differently, to do things maybe in a way we haven't done before. Over the next few weeks, I really want everyone to take care of your nervous system. Prioritize your basic needs, and especially around this new moon, because this is where we're kind of setting the tone. So food, rest, movement, self-care, community. We're not going to be perfect at any of it right now, but our needs are our needs. And it's one of the things that unites us as humans. We have a lot of basic needs in common. That is something that we can relate to each other about pretty essentially, like every single person. And it doesn't help us make our situation or anyone else's better if we don't acknowledge that or if we neglect ourselves. I'm not saying that we need to suffer to be creative, but we also have to acknowledge that this difficult energy fuels creation. And don't forget that on Earth, fertile soil is made out of a lot of shit. And we're in the shit, and if there was ever a time to plant seeds, it is this Taurus new moon. So we can really use this to set the tone for the rest of Taurus season, and use this energy to clarify what you want to give life to, especially in the next 6 months. Let the things in the world and in your life that you don't like right now point you towards the things that you like instead. So focus on new goals or new approaches, especially with this new moon. And remember that Taurus is good at preserving energy for what is truly important. And that might be one of the reasons that we associate Taurus with money, because when you preserve your energy for the things that matter, you're more likely to end up in situations where you're bringing in the things that matter the most to you. Clarifying what is of value to you is really step one to using this Taurus new moon to better your situation. We can't forget that life is not just about reacting to fascism. And it's important to remember that as we direct our energy to better things. It's not about what we're destroying. It's about what we're creating. The energy leading up to this new moon gives you the opportunity to reflect on the things that make life worth living. The little things, the big things, the basics, the things that make you feel like $1,000,000, the people, the connections, the experiences, all of it. Because you want to invest your time, energy, and attention not on the things that suck, but on the things you want to grow and give life to, give your life to. Because energy flows where attention goes, and your energy is precious. So for this new moon, you can ask yourself, are you using your energy and your other resources in a way that reflects what you need and value? And if not, how can you shift your attention to generate more of those things in your life? If there are things that need to fall away, how can you use them as fertilizer to inspire and fuel better things? And you are a part of those better things. You are those better things. We are. All right? We can't forget it. We got to act like that too. So have a happy Taurus new moon. It's a big one, but it's a powerful one. Thursday nights, I'm doing Petty Astrology live over on Twitch. So if you like this podcast, you'll love me doing it live. So I hope to see you there. It's at 5 p.m. Pacific. This week, I'm going to talk more about this Taurus new moon because there is a lot to say about it. And I'll share more good news and more stuff that's going on in the world. Things have been very serious, so, this is a place to have fun and laugh and connect and learn a thing or two. I also have my Petty Astrology Club meeting this Sunday on the new moon on April 27th at 4 p.m. Pacific. It's on Zoom, so you can join us from anywhere in the world. I think we'll do a little new moon ritual of some kind together, and then we'll talk more about how this astrology is impacting us personally. If you'd like to join us for that, the link will be in the show notes. Joining Petty Astrology Club is one way to support the podcast. We meet once a month, but you can also become a sponsor. That starts at $5 a month, and you get bonus episodes, more astrological goodies. Sometimes you even get to vote on what I talk about. And speaking of, if you're a sponsor, make sure you vote in the latest poll on whose astrology you'd like me to cover next. I recently did Kendrick Lamar's chart with the wonderful Mackenzie Wollenzine. That is up in Patreon if you haven't watched it already. This time around, Pope Francis is in the lead, but get your votes in and we will see who wins. All of the links are in the show notes. All right, that's it for this week's episode. Tune in on Patreon for even more Petty Astrology. This episode was written, edited, and produced by me, Kaycee Felton-Lui. The show art is by Max Swanson. The music is by Paul Schneider. This episode was brought to you by my sponsors over on Patreon.